Hey, what is up guys, and welcome back to the channel. So in today's video I'm bringing you another recommended money making method. Now originally this only started off with a couple of comments, however over the last week this method just seems to have absolutely exploded in popularity and I've had more requests for this than ever. So this right here is the Jaguar XJR-9, a classic Group C Le Mans car, and it goes like stink. It is just insanely fast, and obviously we'll get into the setup and then we'll get into the method itself. So here we go. You need racing hard tyres on both. Body height adjustment, you want it at 80, 65. Anti-roll bar, you're going to want that at 5, 5. Dampening ratio compression, 30 and 30. Dampening ratio expansion, 40 and 40. Natural frequency, you want it at 4.00 of 4.20. Negative camber angle, 0.5 on the front and 1.5 at the rear. Toe angle, dead on 0, and then 0.30 at the rear. Onto the differential gear now. We want the initial torque 25, acceleration sensitivity 27, braking sensitivity 55. So, fully customizable racing transmission, set that at 310. Then the power restrictor, you're just going to leave that at 100. Ballast, minus 49. The amount of ballast is 95. And the output adjustment, just leave that at 100. Downforce is 500 and 1600. And the rest of this sheet does not need touching. You don't need any permanent upgrades or anything as such. This should take you to just under the 800 pp mark. So, I guess you pretty much all know at this point the event we're going to use, but we seem to have an influx of new players to Gran Turismo recently that kind of don't know these tracks and such. It's the Sardegna road course we're going to use, and it's the World Touring Car 800. So I'm just going to put this in for those that don't know. So this is the fastest strategy I found with this car. It does involve a couple of pit stops, but don't let that put you off. It's a very good method, and this car is ultra quick. Just set the AI difficulty to easy. There's no need to then worry about them. Just be careful when you're lapping them. So on the first lap, the main thing you're going to want to do is kind of just get your way through the field. The car I run no assist, but for me the car was a little bit slidey when first starting, but apart from that, yeah, not too bad at all really. The main thing you're going to take advantage of is the insane acceleration and the insane top speed of this car. If you do have to kind of sit behind the AIs for a little bit, just do so. Yeah, it may cost you a little bit of time, but it's better than obviously piling into them. As you can see here, I'm sort of blocked off by two AIs having a battle. Just be careful, because they will act like you don't exist, and they are not afraid to punt you off and basically put you in the barrier if they kind of want to. So as you can see, we're already working our way around half of the grid, and we're going to keep on pushing. It's all about kind of just timing your overtakes. I guess most of you will kind of know the lines that the AI take here. I've kind of figured out where is the best place to overtake them. However, even if you've run this a million times, you're guaranteed to get caught behind one at some point, because the AI does like to kind of bunch up, and that's when they kind of act a little bit sporadic, and that's when they kind of act like I said, you don't exist to them. So we're up to 5th place by the end of the first lap, and we're going to use that insane top speed to just power us down the straight, coming across the line for our first lap. So by lap 2, right at the end, you're going to overtake the leader. At this point, you're never ever going to have to worry about being overtook or anything as such. You're just going to power on through. Okay, so around lap 5, this is not going to be our pit stop lap, but we are still running our basically maximum power output on the fuel mixers. We've got around 2 laps of fuel left, around about 30% of the tank. However, don't let this fool you, because only a lap later I have got just under a lap, and I'm going to currently start running the car at fuel mix 6. This is basically to get me around this 6th lap nice and steady, and then I'm going to take my first pit stop of the race. As you can see, a bunch of other cars are starting to pit now. We're basically just going to take our pit stop at the end of lap 6, going on to lap 7. It is a 2-stop strategy, this, so it is going to require you to pit again. You don't have to, but I would kind of recommend, again, another sprint and then a basically splash and dash. So end of lap 6, and we are going to take our first pit stop. We are not going to change the tyres this time around. We are going to fill the car to full on the fuel. So one thing to kind of note about this car is on the hard tyres, it does actually suffer quite a bit with tyre wear. Now, it's never really been too noticeable with any of the other cars on Sardinia, apart from the Aston Martin GT1 car, which I did recently. This is the car that seems to have the most tyre wear, or kind of the tyre wear affects it the most. So just be aware of that. So we're on lap 7, and this is when we're going to start basically lapping the field. Yeah, just as usual, be careful. As you can see, we've got a car coming out of the pits. Be very, very careful if they are doing that. Sometimes they have a habit of just coming straight out into basically your path. They're not bothered how fast you're going, and they also have a habit of punting you in the rear end at the first corner. So again, this is where we're getting into the big groups of cars. We are doing another sprint run, so we're back to fuel mix power 1 for this. Basically the whole of this sprint. Onto lap 8, as you can see, we are capturing a massive bunch of cars. Like I said, just be very careful, because yes, you may lose a bit of time kind of stuck up behind them when they're grouped up like this. However, if you push that a little bit too hard, and they basically pile into you, you're going to cost yourself a lot more time than you would just being sort of behind them for a few seconds on a corner. The best place to sort of overtake them is in the fast sections. They're not too bad out of the corners, so they're quite good through the corners. So that's not really where you're going to be able to make a massive amount of leaps on them. It's best to kind of wait until you've got a bit more of I guess a straight area where you can use all that horsepower to kind of pull through a group of them. So lap 10, and I am again still running fuel mix 1. We have around about 3 laps of fuel remaining, about 44% in the tank. Again, it's a little bit deceiving, because I mean, figuring out these fuel mixers and such is a bit annoying sometimes. So don't always kind of trust that, because all of a sudden you'll realize you've got no fuel in the tank and you're just going to come to a standstill. This is definitely the point where those hard tires start to wear off, and it is a lot more noticeable in this Jaguar for some reason. Like I said, the Aston Martin suffered the same kind of thing. I'm definitely going to recommend that in the second and final pit stop that you do put another set of hard tyres on. You don't have to. If you find it comfortable to kind of skate around a little bit, then don't worry about doing that, but I would kind of recommend it. And as you're going to see here, the end of lap 12 going on to 13, we're going to take our final pit stop. I am going to put another set of hards on, because I just find it a little bit too, I guess, on edge for my liking. So I would actually recommend putting them hard tyres on. Like I said, you can fill up to that dot. However, with me, I'm not in a rush or anything like that, so I just put full fuel in. This is just to ensure, like, I am going to get to the end, because like I said, sometimes the fuel indicator is a little bit off, and if you don't pay attention to it, you'll find yourself kind of stranded in the middle of the track with no fuel. Just be careful coming out the pits, just in case any cars are flying down there. So final lap, and we are basically sprinting again at a fuel mix 1 straight to the end. Plenty of fuel left. As you can see, we've used up nearly half a tank already. So the fuel use is quite high in this car. You can basically do a more toned down fuel saving run. However, this car just lends itself a lot more to, I guess, sprint power than it does kind of being basically very good on fuel. I much prefer the sprint method. I wasn't a big fan of the fuel saving methods. I never really am. If I can put in good lap times and kind of where I'd lose time saving fuel, if I can make that up by running faster fuel mixers, I kind of will. I much prefer rather taking a couple of pit stops than dragging around in the low 140s or so. So as you can see, we've come across the line first, and we are going to check the overall time. As you can see, 25 minutes 22 seconds, 0.154. So in the 25 minutes barrier, our fastest lap was a 136.437 on lap 15. So that was our final lap. So those fresh set of hards coming in handy. And yeah, basically clean race bonus, no problem. Just don't overtake under the yellow flags. Let's just get on to discussing this method, because seriously, it's definitely one of the better ones. So yes, I can see why you all recommended me this method, and I can see why it's just kind of blown up in popularity these last couple of weeks. I'd never really even thought about using this car. I knew the Mazda was very popular, but this car was kind of not spoken about really. And I must admit, this Jaguar is definitely a favourite of mine over the Mazda, and I know that's a bit of a controversial take, but yes, I much prefer this Jaguar over the Mazda method. I find the Mazda, yes, while it's fast, it's not as kind of fast, I guess, as this Jaguar, and it just doesn't have that just kind of awesome feeling. It feels a bit more like, I guess, repetitive than it does with this Jaguar. You feel like with this Jaguar you can get more out of it. So I would 100% recommend using this method. So don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and I will see you all in the next one. Cheers, guys.